Prudential Committee meeting. The first thing on the agenda is all who are able, please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll take the roll call now. Mark Lynch here.
John Havel here.
Ray Perone here.
Ryan Wett here.
Commissioner Burdick had advised us that he was likely to be unable to make this call, so we will proceed without him. The next item on the agenda is public comment. I would note that our project manager, Left Field, is going to do a presentation on the school demolition project, and there will be a question and answer period there. So if you have questions on that topic, please hold off. But any other public comment?
Patty Daly has public comment.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. Patty Daly, 45 Banfield Drive. So I sent the committee an email on Saturday talking about the AV upgrade discussion that's up on your agenda later. What I did was, to the best of my ability, try to outline what the committee's responsibilities, legal responsibilities are under the open meeting law at the state level and the federal Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. I do hope that you run those by Mark Boudreau. My aim in doing this was to get everybody in agreement about what your legal requirements are. And my intent was that I think you need to understand that before you decide how and to what extent you need to, or you might want to, upgrade the meeting technology in Freedom Hall. That's for remote and in-person meetings. So that was my goal. I note that last April, Carol Zays came in with a very detailed and quote from a professional firm with experience in doing audio, visual for rooms like this that are not ideal for public meetings necessarily, just because of the acoustics, although it's beautiful. At the time, the chair stated that he thought it was a lot of money for a sometimes problem and that we could be fastidious about using the OWL speaker. So the money didn't get voted, and I have to say, in my experience since last April, it's really difficult to be fastidious about the OWL. I think it's just human nature that people are going to turn their heads when they're talking. And I implore you to find a better solution so that everybody can hear and see what's going on in your meetings. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
That looks like it, Mark.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, then let me introduce our project manager, owner's project manager, Left Field LLC. We have with us tonight at Freedom Hall, Joe Sullivan, Kevin Sullivan, no relation, and Kayla Gallo. And they're going to give us a presentation on what is the current status of the Cotuit School demolition and site remediation project, when it's likely to begin, the timing, what we can expect. And then they will be able to field questions. So with that, I will turn it over to Left Field.
Thank you, Mark. So what we'd like to go over initially is there's a couple of things that I'd like to bring up ahead of time. First and foremost, the general contractor has been selected. He's under contract. He's provided a schedule currently right now. So we're reviewing it for content and quality as far as the timing on that.
Sorry, I can't hear it. I sit behind the presenters.
That's okay. Sharing the schedule, tell you.
That's fast, but you.
Okay, I can wait. I just,
Trying to find the best way to do it for us.
probably.
All right.
So what I'm gonna do is I'll have Kayla go through some of the tentative dates from the schedule that we've received. And then based on that, we're gonna go into a logistics plan of actually the sequence of what they're looking to do, how they're gonna do it. And I can talk about, you know, the notification purposes, how they're gonna get into the demo as well. And the permitting aspect to that and the disconnects that'll be required. Kayla?
So as Joe mentioned, this is a tentative schedule. We're planning on mobilizing on 27th. The abatement process will take roughly 5 weeks, and then we'll get into demolition, which should take about 2 weeks. Which will bring us into the plantings, which should start hopefully around 6:15, between 6:15 and 6:24.
So those timelines are all basically set forth on some state guidelines through the abatement. There's a 10-day notification for the intent to have the abatement started. Once that approval from the state happens, most of the work during the first 4 to 5 weeks is going to be interior. They're going to be doing the abatement within the facility and the basement as well. You'll see a small crew mobilize on the outside and start to begin some of the window removal and the caulking and any hazardous material along that. So the demo doesn't happen. You're not gonna see this building just once they get there, get knocked down. That's not how it works. They gotta get a clean building. Once the building is clean, the power will get disconnected and the gas service to the building will be disconnected. Once those two are done, they can actually apply for the demo permit. That's a little bit of a process. There'll be a coordination between the abatement and when we actually ask the utilities to be disconnected and cut off at the property boundary. So that being said, our total schedule, we're looking to have it completed, you know, all installed with all of any and all vegetation and any temporary irrigation or water supplies that we're going to need for it in place and be done hopefully the first week of July. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about the logistics and this is a plan that we're required, the general contractor to provide us, just so that we can have a clear understanding of what their intent on how they're gonna go about it. You'll see the access, the red arrow coming in, they're showing the egress into the site, the circulation around the left side of the building in the parking lot. They'll have 2 containers set up. One container will contain some of the bag abatement and hazardous material for removal, and then the other is going to be probably some of their equipment. They've also set up a schedule and sequence. If you'll see a little highlighted bubble area in the front of the plan closest to the street, there's a fire hydrant there. Kayla and the team has reached out to the water district for the use of that for a temporary short-term water supply for, you know, the not only the abatement needs some water as well as setting up a short-term temporary water supply for any of the vegetation that might need to go in the off-season during that process. The limit of work is that block line that circles and encompasses the property. We've already spoken to the contractor and we're gonna make a slight modification on the boundaries of that property and allow the pole with the egress nest to be on the outside of that. So the limit of work, the black dotted line will come on the inside closest to the school and encompass around that. So they won't have any, you know, interaction or crossover with the work that's going to be currently scheduled for the demo of the school and plantings with that pole. Trying to think of anything else.
For reference, the pole that he's talking about is at the top. It's in the red bubble.
Right
Yep, right
there,
there.
yep. So before I continue, is there any questions we're getting regarding the logistics? They've identified like the timing and the sequence of when the building's coming down, and their last scope of work will be, you know, any of the larger rocks and some of the gates that'll be required as part of the specifications and plans, so. Mark,
I have questions. Are you ready for questions, Chairman Mark?
Is the left field ready for questions?
sure, absolutely.
Okay, if I can make the first one then. Um, you spoke about a nest on a pole. For those who haven't been to any of our prior meetings, there is an osprey's nest on a telephone pole, the last in a sequence of telephone poles that has been there for years. It is an active nest. It's been active for years without any problem with the electric supply to the school. For some unknown reason, Eversource decided about 4 days ago that presented an electric hazard, and they tossed the nest onto the ground and put up a metal device that's meant to prevent the ospreys from returning to the nest. We found this particularly aggravating because we had specifically put in details in our bids to protect that osprey's nest. The good news is the ospreys have diligently rebuilt their nest, and we are back to where we started. We have had multiple communications with Eversource from several different sources, communicating to them that we would very much like to keep the ospreys there and to keep the power on for the few months while this demolition occurs. I think that Joe has been communicating with Eversource to communicate that, and if you have an update on that, we would very much like to hear it.
Sure. So I've been in contact, well, there's been a lot of communication back and forth regarding the osprey nest, and it was a surprise when I heard from Mark. I want to say it was Thursday or Friday that the nest had been taken down, and it had no influence or any part of the project as our understanding. So when we did find out, it was Eversource that there's provisions and there's certain criteria that they can and can't do during this process. They felt it was a hazard, and that's why they ended up taking it down, and they put some deterrent up there to try to prevent the nest from being put back up there. I reached out since that point and spoke to a few individuals. We are gonna have the power during the abatement process through this situation, and the nest was rebuilt. I was actually out there tonight before the meeting, and they're in the nest, and it's back where it was, and it's actually the configuration is there. We've spoken to Eversource and seeing if we could have a request to have a pole put in place with a platform. Typically, I've done several of these projects, and I've actually had the opportunity of working with Ospreys over on Martha Vineyard. We were planning on doing a track and field project, and some light poles that shine on the field had osprey nests on them. The only way you can actually relocate them, it's somewhat of a process, but they tend to nest on the highest platform, in an open area. So the reasoning or the understanding of what we tried to do was put in a pole with a platform a little higher than where they were nesting on the light poles, which what that presented is a better opportunity for the birds to nest on that pole. Ideally, we'd like to identify a spot within the backside of that school and put a larger pole with a platform there. That way it won't be disturbed. It won't ever be touched by Eversource because it won't have any power going to it. And then the logistics of it, the birds would have longevity for, their future nesting moving forward. I can tell you Eversource, I haven't gotten a final call back, that they'll leave the nest there, but my goal is to try to get some type of written correspondence that they will leave the nest there until such time we have a pole and a platform suitable enough for them to utilize for future breeding, but they wouldn't affect this year's breeding. That's the ultimate goal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions on relating to the ospreys or any other topic at all relating to the school? I see that Lee is waving her hand. Lee, you're muted, so you'll have to unmute.
Can you hear
There you
me
go.
now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we're making progress. You know that this is a concern of mine, and I've appreciated the correspondence with the Prudential Committee and the project manager. If a pole were to be installed, who would pay for it?
So the good news is I've done this privately and I've done it publicly. So we can make a request to Eversource. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to grant it. I mean, they've done it in the past, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get it. So I actually researched a company that I ended up hiring to do this work, and we got a really reasonable price for this to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I can sequence it and schedule it appropriately. And as long as we identify, and I'm going to speak to the landscape architect and the district to find out the best, ospreys like to be in the opening. They don't like to be on a wood line side. They want the pole to be sequenced in a manner that birds are going to feel safe, and they just feel safer in the opening and the higher elevation. So that being said, the use of that land in the back is going to have a conversation of where the best placement will be for that. And I've gotten a price on that already, and I'm going to work with the fire district to see what the best practical manner of whether Eversource is going to do something for us or whether we do it on our own.
I just wanted to know, would that poll is your intent, or whoever is looking into it, to be on the fire district property, not the town?
Yes.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. And is there, I know you can't determine when Eversource gets back to you, but if they don't, do we have a timeline for when this can happen, and can it happen during the construction period?
The answer is yes.
To both?
To both.
Okay. Thanks for your work on this.
No problem.
And I'm glad to hear that you've had experience with this in other areas. So
yeah, it wasn't by choice initially. So I've worked closely with Martha Vineyard, and they're a very sensitive bird, and the public loves to see them. And I love their longevity is based on us coordinating with them and working with them in the future, and that's what the ultimate goal is.
they're persistent, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Lee, thank you for bringing this to my attention and then to Left Field's attention. We appreciate your persistence, and we appreciate your alerting this to us. That strangely, it had nothing to do with the demolition project at all. Just the timing was not ideal. So
right, and there are a number of people that misunderstood that, and because of our conversation, I was able to clarify that for them, because they were they felt that it had something to do with the school, and I cleared that up for them.
Just bad timing.
Yeah, just bad timing. With sorry, Left Field. you're aware of, I don't know who you got the information about the installation of the pole, but you know that there's the Osprey project in Falmouth and a couple of other folks that do this for a living. So I'm glad you have a contact, and I would love to know who it is.
Yeah, I can
when
share that with you. I can share that with you. Once we determine, it's a direction we're gonna go. I can tell you, having done relocation of poles, the demolition of the school should have no adverse effect on those osprey raising their young. There's construction that happens all around Little Nests and activities around nesting for ospreys that occur throughout the Commonwealth. So when we ended up doing it in the past, we had full-blown construction going on adjacent to it, and there wasn't any ill effect to it at all. So
I'm just concerned that Eversource might go back and do something. So that's
well,
my
they
concern.
so part of unfortunately, and I agree. I'd hate to see that happen as well. But there are provisions, for public utilities that allow
I
them
understand.
they have a little bit of leniency on life safety issues. So we're both Mark and I have voiced our concerns with them, and I'm hoping that we got to the right people so that it would, and if the nest has to come down, I hope it's after the birds are out and fledged and
Yeah.
flying. So
We don't want them electrocuted, and we want the equipment maintained. That's,
Yep.
I understand that,
there's a balance.
so,
Yep.
so anyway, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you, Lee. I have a question, Joe. Is there going to be fencing off any part of the property, and if so, when would we expect to see that?
So the only fencing that they're gonna probably end up putting in is the entranceway and exit of the property. The property somewhat, encompassed with wood line that really doesn't allow much access onto the other than foot traffic. All of the parts of the building that will be in the process of having the abatement will all be secured and locked down. They'll have to work with the police and fire department on maybe a double lock mechanism for the gates so they have access to it if need be, or a Knox box. I think we talked about that during the kickoff meeting. So they are not planning on putting a full perimeter fence around there. I did speak to the general contractor and asked him if need be that we put some type of temporary fencing around the pole so that, the pole is 60 feet or 70 feet from the building. There's really no intent for them to even be by that pole, even with the logistics plan that I showed you. I don't see they'll have any interaction with that pole even when the demo starts. And they do it in phases. They don't just go in there and knock the whole thing down and then pull it out. They're methodically going to take down each section, separate it, and then haul it out as needed. So the only fence, to answer your question, a long-winded statement, is it'll be in the front with gates set up for the entrance and exit.
Okay. Any other questions for any of the left field representatives?
I just have one other question about the driveway. Like right now, there's the driveway that goes from Main Street to Old Oyster. Is that going to be blocked off, and how is that going to be, remain there? So after people will be able to drive through, or is that going to be blocked off?
So not during the construction, there'll be any access into there. It's for the life safety of the residents as well. So we just want to make sure that, they take the building down methodically and safe, and all of the residents around them will be safe. There is going to be, on the plans, and I don't think we brought them for like the plan to show the rocks and gates set up that will be put in place after the fact. But next meeting, we can bring that and show the public again. We've done this once already, but we'll reiterate, where that plan is and the traffic flow that'll happen there.
So will it go from Main Street to Old Oyster, or
No?
Okay.
I think we may be miscommunicating a little bit. Joe is talking about what's going to happen during construction.
Oh, well, after.
After the fact, there will be no connection between Old Oyster Road, no paved road or driveway between Old Oyster Road and Main.
Right.
Okay,
It
thank
will
you.
go from Main to the edge of the property only.
Okay, thank you.
If there are
And
no other questions,
I have one other point I just want to bring up and just bring it to the committee's attention is that we did get a price for the monitoring of the abatement. It was with Environmental Universal, and it was well underneath what we had budgeted at 24,100.
This is
I'm sorry, 26,950. And we had budgeted 50,000, so we're well below that. I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention because I'd like to engage them. We'll do a contract as a pass-through, so through left field, so that it'll be smoother and cleaner for the district.
okay, last chance for questions. Hearing none. Joe, Kevin, Kayla, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I see in my agenda that I was supposed to have touched on a review of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. There are some changes that need to be made there. So rather than we have a long agenda tonight, I would like to push that off to our next meeting. Which, by the way, for scheduling purposes, I see John is here, Seth is not. We are contemplating a Monday, April 27th final meeting, which is the last day for approval of all articles, and hope that to be a short meeting, depending on what we can get accomplished today. So I'm hoping that meets with your schedule. I know you're on vacation, John, and thank you for being here.
Of course, I'll be taking a red eye the night before, but I should be available that evening.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is the fire department budget.
Mark, are they good to start?
Yes, whenever you guys are ready, please go ahead.
All right, good evening. Presented before you this evening is the proposed fiscal year 27 fire department budget. It's broken down into two categories, salary and wages, and then operations. The salary and wages line has, our totals have increased 15%, driven largely by contractual obligations. And the operating budget has increased 2%. And those are largely driven by just anticipated inflationary costs associated with fuel, heating, electricity, and some general cost of running the firehouse, and the increases in CMed fees as well, which is the county's connection point for medical calls to the hospitals and doing radio patches. And with that, the total is a 13% increase over fiscal year 26 for a total budget of 3.199, $818,002.
Sean, when we talk about contractual obligations, a little background for those listening, the firefighters union and the district recently completed negotiations for a 3-year contract. I assume that has been approved now by the fire commissioners.
Yes, it is.
Okay, that contract contemplated raises in the approximate amounts of annually 13%, 6.2%, and approximately 3%. Can you, Sean, can you explain and I know there are reasons for this, the difference between the contemplated 13% and the projected 15% rise in compensation?
So the raises depend on where folks fall within their time served, so not everybody is getting the same percentage raise throughout this contract. And then there are certain certifications that individuals can pursue, and once they receive and maintain that, they get an additional amount of money put into their salary. And if they do not maintain those certifications, then that amount comes out of the annual salary. The dollar figure is a fixed dollar figure, and that changed in this contract. I believe that was at your request to move away from the percentages that exist in the past and go to a fixed dollar amount.
Yeah, so people are understanding what we're talking about. Prior contracts and this one include incentives for training. And for example, training in on the how to operate the boat used to have a percentage increase in base salary associated with it. Instead of percentages now, we have switched to flat numbers, a particular number with respect to the boat training. For example, it's $3,500 a year. We hope in the long term this provides a financial benefit. So can you explain for us, I'm aware of this, but I want to hear your take. 15% is a very significant raise across the board. What was the justification for that?
The comparative analysis that was conducted by the majority of the folks on the negotiating committee, which included you, Commissioner Ross, and Commissioner Zace, to try to stay competitive with the fire departments across the Cape and certainly retain the talented folks that we have, as well as pave the way for any recruitment in the future of the organization. As everybody's well aware, on the Cape, a lot of the fire departments are built around small fire departments with personnel living close by, so that they're available to come back to handle second calls, to handle larger incidents. And with a roughly 62% increase in home values in the last 5 years on Cape Cod, it's trying to find a balance on having folks that can afford to live close by to the fire station and be able to respond to the emergencies and really afford to live in close proximity to Cotuit. I'd like to say to afford to live in Cotuit, but the median home value is 1.1 million or 1.88 million. Is it's a challenge to hire a new employee to come in live in the village and be that close, but we do try to make it so that they can live in reasonable proximity to get back here in a amount of time to make a difference in an emergency.
The public should be aware that in the past, we have taken the position that we are trying to compensate our firefighters at a level that it's all about comparison with comparable departments. And we had been tracking along right at or around the median for our 7 or 8 different comparator companies. We changed our tack and are trying to keep up with the highest paying department. I would say departments, but it's really one. It's really COM. That was a change in our negotiating over past contracts. I was not in favor of this raise, as I made clear during the negotiating process, and I'm not in favor of this budget for that reason. I'd like to hear from Mr. Havel if he has any comments. Commissioner Burdick is not available for this call, and I would like to hear his comments as well. As I say, we will have another meeting on April 27th, assuming availability. Any questions, comments from any and all?
I have one that you touched on, and you specifically mentioned COM. Am I correct in understanding that COM significantly increased their salaries and wages since the last union negotiation?
I think it'd be fair to say, well, Sean would know better, but I believe it's fair to say that they have always been near the top of the heap and at or near the top of the heap. And yes, they are going through a hiring phase. Supposedly, over the course of 4 years, they want to hire 16 more firefighters. They're not currently hiring, but they did, I believe, hire 4 firefighters in the past year. I don't know where those firefighters came from.
Thank you. And Chief or Commissioner Conley, I'm just wondering about our current employees or current firefighter staff in terms of turnover and any anticipated recruiting in the next, let's say, few years, understanding that the fire station is undergoing construction right now. Do you anticipate the staff levels changing in the near future?
I certainly think that's a conversation that the district is going to have over the next year. The choice is to try to have folks be able to live close by and live in Katuitt or Sandwich or Mashpee or Marston's Mills or Centerville and continue to rely on the smaller fire department with utilizing folks coming back in for emergencies, or is to reduce the reliance on that and expand the number of folks on duty so that you don't have to rely on callback. So it is absolutely a conversation, and that goes back to to a couple of years now. We've been referencing that is as far back as when I was in the hiring process here, and COM is, as mentioned, is going through that kind of transition now where they're going to be looking to, and I don't, not to speak for another organization, but having viewed their plan, which is publicly available, they're recognizing that it's just relying on folks coming back from their homes and making a significant impact, and when minutes and seconds count is becoming more and more challenging. So, and their reliance on callback will go down, but their staffing levels will increase. And that's happening across Cape Cod. This is not a Calm and a Katuitt or town of Barnstable. It is across the Cape where most of the communities are starting to do away with their residency requirements and increase in staffing, which is in this new contract will loosen the living requirements a little bit, but we still have living requirements. And I want to say, based on a recent study I just saw, there's maybe 4 or 5 that have left on Cape Cod that have living requirements, and we are one of them. So,
Thank you.
So these numbers, of course, do not include retirement or benefit implications, correct?
I'll defer to Ray on that.
Ray, you there?
Muted. There, I'm unmuted. No, they don't. I following up with what you just said, Chief. Do you have callbacks with ambulance or just with other emergencies, fire, etc.?
And it's EMS and fire. It depends on the category of the type of call. The non-emergent calls don't have any callback. Generally any type of emergent call is going to have folks coming back.
Okay.
And that's to be prepared not only to assist with the call in progress, but be prepared to respond to secondary calls or tertiary calls as they come in, which about 25% of our calls, I believe, are overlapping.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Couple of questions on the budget itself. If I understood what has been said, the increase is 13%. And yet when I look at the permit, is that correct?
Total overall, yes.
When I look at the permanent, I see 22%, implying that there's 9% of step increases. That somehow seems high. In other words, permanent full-time shows an increase of 22%. And if we have a 13% average increase, that would mean that we have 9% step and grade. It just seems high.
That's average.
I don't understand the question, Ray.
Okay, Sean, let me try it. If the overall increase is 13%, when we look at what the full-time permanent wages would be, one would expect, absent step and grade increases, that line to show a 13% increase.
15.
It shows 22, which means that 9% is step and grade increases.
Right, so
which
Ray,
seems high to me.
the
I mean,
overall,
if you've done the arithmetic, then and that's the number, okay. But it seems high for that for
So,
1 year
Ray-
to have something like that.
Ray, the overall number is 13%, that's correct, but the salary and wages is 15. I know that doesn't make up the total delta, but it's 15 versus 13, so you're 15 versus the 22 is what you're asking about, correct?
No, yeah, I'm asking the 13 versus the 22. If you look at line 3 on your budget,
Yeah.
salary and wages, permanent full-time. Absent anything else, we would expect to see 13% on that line.
He's
But there are
glancing on-
always,
Oh, this is Doesn't work that way.
Can the audience please remain quiet? Thank you.
That's, it's, so
Just the
if I
third,
may, Ray, that's the third, so I don't disagree with you that there's a difference in the numbers there. But that's 22 versus 15, not 13. So just as a point of reference, if you look at the total salary and wages percentage increase, that's the 15.
I have other questions
Okay,
too, but let's just focus on that line. Because what we include in that line are step and grade increases and the wage increase. And what I'm saying is that in your calculation, which I'm sure you did, the 9% that is would be by the magic of subtraction would be attributable to step and grade increases seems proportionately high.
Ray, is there some additional calculations that they could do that would put your mind at rest?
hold on, we're doing a quick check here.
Okay, I mean it's not an answer tonight. It's just, gee, that number looks funny. There's a couple of other things too.
So Ray, we'll take that as one to look at. Absolutely. Was there another one that you were wondering about?
It's the third line.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go on from there. I look at the budget, and I look down at vacation coverage, and I guess vacation coverage. If 22 makes sense, then vacation coverage going up 23% makes sense, because that's kind of the weighted, if you will, the weighted average of your increase, and that would apply to that.
Yep.
But then when I come down to holiday pay, I see the increase is 73%. Did we give anybody another holiday?
No, there was a overtime added into that for 5 of the holidays.
Yeah, but there was a overtime would have been added last year.
So it was a 1.5% increase for working particular holidays, 5 holidays.
I know you
That's
keep
where
coming
that
down to
number
that,
comes
Kevin,
What's
and I agree that overall it does, but some of the pieces don't make sense.
Okay.
I mean, number one of the sick coverage at $100,000 down 13%.
That was decreased based on the fact that we're below our projections for this year currently. So the idea was to not carry that same complete amount. So we brought it down a bit.
So you're down 25%.
We took down our budget for next year by 13% is what we brought it down for sick coverage.
That was based on a statistical review of past years, prior years.
Okay, well, the prior year that I have is 25, and it's again round number $130,000, and so I don't have the schedule in front of me to check it. I didn't have time to check it. If you're down 25%, I mean, you actually have to be down. You have to be down more like 30%, because whatever the number was, absent any change, it would go up 22%. So 22 and 13 get you almost to 35%, which means that you were running this year at a rate of, it was 130. You're running 84,000. Wow.
26 was 142.
Ryan, is there any way that you can quickly pull up the February expenditure ledger? I know I'm asking you to do something on the spur of the moment.
We have it here.
I have it in front of him, but I can find the copy I sent him.
We're currently 79.18% of the way through the fiscal year, and that line is 43.65% expended.
Okay, so
And
you're 75% through the year, so that means that you're going to end up the year at 106. So everything being equal, we would take 106 and multiply it by, again, the 22%, which seems to be the weighted average. That would mean that the number should be 130. Because anything you take this year, you have to multiply by the 122, even though, as I pointed out, the 122 is not just plus 13, it's plus step and grade.
right,
So-
we did come up with the number based on hours multiplied by the average wage of the next contract is how we arrived at that number.
Well, then you missed the step and grade. Because the wage increase is 13%, but then people are moving up.
Yeah.
Each year they ratchet up, and that ratchet up is, according to what we see here, is worth roughly 9%. So you have to multiply everything by the 122. So I just went through, if you're at 80.
No, so we took the average hourly overtime rate times the average hours used in a year, and that's how we arrived at that number. So,
Okay, all right. The next question I have.
I can certainly go back and dissect that a little bit with you and validate what the numbers are that we have, but it is the average hourly overtime rate times the number of hours typically used in a year. And that's how we arrived at that number. So, but if you think there's a flaw in our
Sean, I'm just asking questions. I'm up at 40,000 feet looking down, and when I do my mental math, it's an anomaly.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just an anomaly.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely look at that again. So.
And the other thing is, when we go down to full-time injury, in 25 we spent 109,000. I don't know where we are now. Again, if I had time, I would have looked it up. But absent anything else, full-time injury would go up 22%. And the same with other full-time. Other full-time was 48,025. We budgeted 32. Again, I don't know where we are, but that number should go up 22%.
Is the difference that you're just expecting much less? This is a question I'm directing to Sean and Kevin, of those hourly incidences. I mean, if it's supposed to be going up 22%, then you need to have a pretty dramatic projected decline in the number of hours at that rate. I think that's your point, correct, Ray?
Correct. Something else is going on. That's it. Again, you look at the holiday pay and going up 73%. It should only really go up, everything else being equal, 22%.
There's language in the contract that addresses that number that specifically points back to a holiday benefit that was negotiated into this contract.
Okay, so we're giving more holiday time.
Yes.
Okay. I think we ought to point that out to the folks. That it's not just a wage increase. There are other components to this.
So speaking of other components, these numbers do not include the increase in retirement benefits, which are salary based. When would we expect to see the effect of this raise on the benefit numbers?
Well, you'll see the pension, it actually lags 2 years because we'll report in October the 26 wages. And those went up, I think, I saw something like 350. And so we'll see, and roughly speaking, pension costs are 16% of your covered wages. So you'd see something like, I think it was 35%. I did a quick calculation. The larger increase, this 13%, will be reported in October of 2027 and become part of our 2028 fiscal 28 budget, and that's going up about I think I did a quick calc, it's like 55 or 60. But those will show up down the line.
And this year, was it this year or last year, our benefits costs went up 13.39%. Is that correct?
Let me just take a quick check. This year it's going up 13%. Last year, in the budget, it went up. I have actual, the budget went up 10%.
So we could expect that number would go up, would be substantially higher on a percentage basis, given this raise, correct?
Well, there's two components. There's two components to benefits: medical insurance and retirement, and they're split almost 50-50.
Okay.
This year there was an 8% increase on the medical side, and a 12% increase on the pension side. That weighted out to 13 because we added some. We went back to the OPEB contribution, which was something that we skipped last year because we were so well funded. But the liability has gone up, so we're going to have to go back and start contributing to keep our place. But based on the health insurance, which is 540,000, that reflects the 8% increase. And the retirement is 600, and that reflects roughly an 11% increase.
But my point was that we can expect, perhaps not next year, but beginning the year after that, that number would be substantially higher from a percentage perspective.
Yes, and it would. Yes, obviously the wage increases get baked into that number, along with the accelerated retirement contributions that the pension authority is required to make to meet their funding target by 2035.
Okay. So if the target number, so to speak, in the contract is for a 6% raise next fiscal year, I'm sorry, the fiscal year after the next fiscal year, and a 3% raise, we would expect it to be percentage-wise substantially higher than either of those numbers. If you're including benefits,
Yeah, if you're including benefits and pulling them back to the year that uh, incurred the increase. But as I said, next year you'll really see half of that pension, half of that wage increase impact pensions, and the other more substantial part would be the year after.
in recent years, we have not attributed, so to speak, benefit costs on separately on the fire department, the water department, and the Prudential department. Is there any accounting reason why we would not do that?
There's no accounting reason other than it is they're predicated on, we'd have to predicate it on estimates for half of the benefit cost. I can only you can't identify a retirement cost except by allocating it by salary. I don't get a bill for Sean's retirement. I get a bill for the water department and the fire department together. So the only way I can break it down is to split it by salary. I do that in the budget.
Okay.
80% of our retirement, it appears, is fire department.
Any other questions? John, Ryan, Ray?
I thought there was one other one I had on the, hang on, let me go back to the Zoom. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. The other full-time injury was something I thought we were a little light on. So I thought that would go up at a minimum of 22,000. And I know that in the actual in 2025 for full-time injury is 109,000. But no, we talked about that. I have no further questions. I'm sorry. I think Sean and I can go back through and answer some of my questions in detail.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
Sorry, I do have one quick one,
Go ahead.
Mark. And
Yep.
this is likely for Ray, for my own benefit. Just so I understand, I mean, it looks like there's about $39,000 in decreases for fiscal year 27 that's proposed, and that's to your point about those increases. Those should be increased proportionate to the full or permanent full-time wages. But to what Chief mentioned is anticipating a decrease in hours or potential liability based on previous years. I'm wondering if those assumptions of the decrease for example, sick coverage, personal coverage, holiday pay, or sorry, not holiday pay here, but personal and sick. If those assumptions prove to be false and we end up under budgeting for those, what is the action item? What is the step to take then at that point? I guess what's the risk of under budgeting?
Well, the risk of under budgeting is that the first line of defense is the reserve fund, and that's 45,000. So if we were, for example, to overexpend that budget by 30,000, we'd take 30,000 and move it to the fire department budget, and that would take care of that overage. If, for example, it was $60,000 that we're over, we only have $5,000 in reserve. You have two options at that point. Next year at the annual district meeting, let's say that's what we see happening. you would ask for a supplementary budget for the current fiscal year in the annual district meeting. Or absent that, you would simply add the uncovered overage to the following year's tax bill as a appropriation deficit.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, Sean, any additional comments?
I think the only comment we'll make is, I'll make at this point, is that we'll plan on getting together with Ray over the next couple of days and working through some of the questions.
Okay, thank you. With that, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the continuing review of draft articles. We made a lot of progress last week. Ryan, if you can put up the articles again, we'll just briefly blow through them until we get to the ones we haven't, the ones that require work. So we've agreed to, okay, the first one that requires a comment is Article 5, which is the fire department budget, which we now have in hand. And we can, over the course of the next week, fill in those numbers.
We go back to Article 4.
Yes.
Article 4, I made some changes in the number is higher than we have here, which of course is a problem. You can have a lower number at the actual budget presentation, and I think what happened is the two things happened. I got the actual tax wages now, incorporating the fire department number, and I also got a little more refinement on the insurance, I believe, was the other area that I added. Currently, I have, for salaries, I have 165,753.
And just to be clear, this is for the uninitiated, and make sure I'm getting this correctly. The Prudential Committee or Prudential Finance, for lack of a better word, pays the payroll taxes for the water and fire department. Is that what we're discussing now?
Well, that's part of what we're discussing now. We're discussing really, two things. There was an adjustment to the clerk's stipend. There was an adjustment to payroll tax, and those are the two biggest items in the change.
What was the significance of those changes? What was the number?
Well, the first number in Article 4 says 159,754 for salaries, and that number should be 165,754.
Okay, and how about the second number?
The second number would be, that's unchanged.
Okay,
so apparently I anticipated something for the fire department, and it was enough to cover. So what we really have to do is add 6,000 to the first number.
Okay. Based upon your explanation, I would move that we increase the first number in Article 4 to $165,754. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. To dwell on something briefly, is there any reason other than past practice that the Finance Committee pays the payroll taxes for water and fire?
No reason other than it would mean another allocation, because those aren't billed. We get one bill, just as we get one bill for the retirement, and it means taking that bill and allocating it
Right.
uh,
I think
to.
we decided that was a project for another day.
Yes.
Okay, Article 5 is the fire district, which we'll fill in those numbers and discuss further on the 27th. Article 6, we are recommending. Article 7, we are recommending. Article 8, we are recommending. Article 9, we are recommending. Article 10, we are recommending. Article 11, we are recommending. Article 12,
Wait 1 second for Article 12, please. Yes, fine. Go ahead.
and just to be clear, when I say we are recommending, I mean based on prior vote at our prior meeting, April 13th, 2026. Article 13, we are recommending. Article 14, we are recommending. Article 15, we are recommending.
What is so Article 15, that the dollar amount just in red, is that just a placeholder or?
I just wanted to circle back and confirm with Ray that that was correct. I didn't want to leave it with that question.
Are we, Ray, are we good with $404,132?
Hang on, no, we're not. Principal and interest, I'm projecting at $669,632. And let me go through that for you. First of all, the first four figures are long-term debt and related interest, existing long-term debt and related interest. The USDA loan is 52,000 principal, $34,000 of interest. The refunded article or refunded long-term debt has a principal payment of 90,000 and interest of 12,000. Those numbers have not changed. What I did change was the short-term principal amount, and I increased that to $150,000 to accommodate the pay down in fiscal 26 and fiscal 27 to eliminate items in the existing bond that matures in June, which we intended to renew for 6 months and then convert to long-term debt. I eliminated or paid off those items that weren't appropriate for long-term debt. We still had money due on the service truck. We had money due on the cardiac monitor, cybersecurity, etc. And what I was recommending is to eliminate all of those by a pay down in November, excuse me, to pay them off fully before we convert it to a long-term debt. Part of this discussion was going to be next week when we talked about the overall debt situation and what the prognosis was for the long-term debt amortization and payment. So I had basically put it down as a placeholder for that pay down. I do know that the interest, based on what I'm calculating, would also be approximately $330,000, utilizing the full debt premium to offset the interest cost, and that's primarily the fire station interest cost that we will be paying next November. My total number is 669, 632, but I would put that in as a placeholder, and I would recommend that we await final approval of that warrant article until next week.
Oh. Okay. I understand your discussion of the ban entirely. You and I will talk offline this week. But in the meantime, we say the Prudential Committee recommends this article. Ryan, if you can just star that it's a significant increase, and we need to fully understand the reasons for that increase. Ray, I appreciate your valiant effort there. This has at least partially to do with funding, correct?
It has everything to do with funding.
Okay. All right, Article 16. We still recommending this article?
Yes.
Article 17. We are recommending this article.
Yes.
Article 18. We recommend this article.
Yes.
Article 19. This is a non-financial item. We are recommending this article. Article 20. We're recommending that article. Just to be clear, when I say we are recommending that article, that does not mean that there was a unanimous vote, but rather with regard to most of these, a 2-3 vote, but nonetheless, the majority rules, and we are recommending the article. Article 21, let's just review that carefully and make sure that the language is correct. Ryan, you inserted this, and I assume it came from the language from the bylaws committee.
Correct, yeah, John forwarded me the language, and that's where it came from.
Okay. Then we had previously voted on this. Again, it's not unanimous, but it was 2-1. And the Prudential Committee recommends this article. Article 22. Likewise, it was not unanimous, but the Prudential Committee recommends this article. 23. The Prudential Committee does not recommend this article. Number 24. This was proposed by our moderator, Ms. Lloyd, by email yesterday afternoon. Let me just read it to see if the district will. I'm sorry, Ray?
This isn't a taxpayer, then this isn't a taxpayer. So you not only have to recommend it, you have to insert it.
Yeah, we're not there yet, Ray. At this
Okay.
point, we're just reading it.
Yep.
To see if the district will vote to establish an ad hoc land acknowledgement committee charged with crafting a statement using the committee's own words that acknowledge, celebrates, and expresses gratitude for the Wampanoag Nation's continuous stewardship from time immemorial to the present of the land we live on, including, among other things, Katuitt's forest, woodlands, streams, ponds, estuaries, and bays. And be it further proposed that this committee present said statement as an article or other appropriate means for consideration at the 2027 Katuitt Fire District Annual District Meeting. And be it further proposed that the committee be convened and chaired by the Katuitt Fire District Moderator, consist of up to 7 residents, 1 member each appointed by Katuitt Fire District, Fire, Water, and Prudential Commissioners, if those commissioners so desire, and 3 members appointed by the moderator. And be it further proposed that the article or other appropriate means the committee chooses presented by the committee to the 2027 Katuitt Fire District Annual District Meeting, including proposals for publicizing, circulating, promoting, and celebrating said statement, or act on anything relative thereto. So Ray makes a good point that we don't just recommend it or not recommend it. We have to determine if it is
Somebody has to propose it. And it's either
again, we're getting there. There are several issues that need to be resolved. I have a number of issues. One, from the bylaws, it would appear, not it would appear, the bylaws provide that a article can be inserted with a petition from 10 voters of the district, which we don't appear to have here. The bylaws also provide very specifically the duties of the moderator, which then the duties are to preside over the annual meeting and to appoint parties to the bylaws committee and the policy advisory committee. And Ms. Lloyd did those 2 things and then sought to be appointed as a member ex officio of those committees. And we pointed out that the bylaws didn't provide for that. And the same issue would appear here. The bylaws don't provide for this activity. And I guess the third thing, and then we'll hear from Mr. Havel, is that this is just way out of our bailiwick. We are streetlights, fire, water, and finance. That is our enabling legislation, and this would appear to be far outside that. But for those procedural reasons, I would be of the position that we can't include this as an article in the warrant. Mr. Havel, do you have comments? And then we'll hear from Ms. Lloyd.
I agree with your kind of the procedural hesitation on it. Beyond that, also, just a couple things would be the deliverable, and 2, the specifics. 2 parts to this in particular, about the 7 residents. If 1 from each one of the commissioners, if those commissioners so desire, just kind of leaves it very open-ended. And then the final point there, act on anything relative thereto. And in terms of the deliverable, if I understand it correctly, it's to craft a statement which will then be publicized or published and publicized on behalf of the Katuitt Fire District, which in general, I do support kind of the acknowledgement, but I do not think that this is within the purview of the Prudential Committee and or the Fire District.
Lally, I know you feel passionately about this, and it is a worthy cause. What response do you have with regard to the kind of the procedural issues here?
Yeah, these are all points well taken, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness. First of all, I do have approximately 25 signatures of Katuitt residents for this article. So that just meets that one, but that there are other ones that you've raised that are also substantive. I appreciate the analogy to when I wanted to appoint myself ex officio, and I remember, yeah, of course, that was ruled sort of out of order and out of bounds. So I'm wondering whether just on that particular point, in terms of who chairs this process, whether if somebody else chaired it, that would resolve the issue, just that particular procedural issue. But then also, I wonder, there's some things that we do culturally, and I don't know the history. Maybe somebody can inform me and educate me. It is not in our bylaws, for example, that we recite the Pledge of Allegiance before every Prudential Committee meeting, and yet we do that. I wonder how, and more analogous perhaps to this issue, I wonder what the process was whereby the seal of the Fire District of Katuitt was designed and approved. Perhaps the seal is the closest analogy that I can come up with to this idea here that we're talking about. Does anybody have any historical memory that can shed any light on how that decision was made? Because that seems to me to be also well beyond fire, water, and streetlights.
I have no idea.
I don't have an answer to those questions, but I do think those are valid questions. I think those are relevant.
So if would it address the substantive issue if yeah, I'm thinking here, if somebody else I guess part of my where I'm coming from is in the absence of the fire district, of the voters of the fire district gathered in assembly, reflecting and voting together and making motions to amend the text of such an article, of such a statement as is proposed here. What entity is there in the village that can speak on behalf of all of us?
The Civic Association.
Oh, I would challenge that, Mr. Treasurer. The Civic Association is a voluntary association whose judgment would not be in any way binding on the fire district members.
Well,
No, I thought
I
you
don't know that
were
we're looking.
asking.
I don't know that
Go
we're
ahead.
looking for something that's binding on our members.
Binding isn't the right word.
So the district bylaws require the petition of 25 people that are to be submitted to the clerk. I assume, Ryan, you haven't seen any such signatures.
The deadline, Mr. Chairman, the deadline for getting certified signatures to our clerk, I believe, is Monday of next week.
27th, correct?
Wednesday?
27th.
The 27th, Monday of next week. I have them in my pocket. I would have taken them over today, but of course the clerk's office at the town was closed today for Patriots Day. And by matter of correction, Commissioner Lynch, it's only 10 signatures that need to be certified.
I'm sorry, you said 25, and I just repeated that number. You're
No,
absolutely right. It is 10, and I believe I said that at my beginning of my statement.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, well, if you can get get those names to Ryan as soon as possible, he needs to check them against the voter roll, which we'll have to talk about how he does that, because we're not getting the voter roll until, as I understand it, I mean, if you're not, the leader, I guess that would resolve the problem of the moderator's duties. And if we have 25 votes, um, uh, that also gets rid of one other procedural hurdle. We're still left with the overall decision whether this is appropriate for the fire district. I mean, when you say, well, what other entity could there be? There is the town, of course. I just don't know that this is it just doesn't
Mark?
seem like it's appropriate. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
This would, if it's not in our, there's basically two things you look to guide what you can do and what you can't do. And one is the enabling legislation, and the second thing are the articles. Just went out of my head.
The bylaws.
Bylaws. Yeah, I was going to say the articles of incorporation, but the bylaws. And this thing seems to circumvent the bylaws committee. It would seem to me, and again, this probably Mark Bedreau would be far better equipped than I, but this would seem to be something that would be brought to the bylaws committee to contemplate and then bring to the taxpayers, to the
So
potential taxpayers.
I think what you might be suggesting, Mr. Treasurer, would be hypothetically, I mean, I agree with the checking with our town, with our fire district council would be, it would definitely be worthwhile. But secondly, this, as proposed, is not a change in the bylaws, but maybe what you're proposing is a prior step. And that is that the bylaws be changed in order to enable such a statement. And then subsequently, this statement would be in accordance with our bylaws and could be brought before an annual district meeting. Am I understanding you?
Yes. I mean,
Well, we have to get
Mayor,
legal counsel on that. I take Ray's comment when I said it doesn't seem like it's within our bailiwick. That was an inapt way of making Ray's point, which is if it's not in the enabling legislation, it's not the kind of thing that we are empowered to do. As I said, we're in the streetlights, fire, water, finance business. If it's not in the bylaws and it's not in the enabling legislation, it's not something we should be taking on.
Well, how about this? Clearly, if the language of this article as drafted needs to be changed to take the moderator out, then the question of the valid signatures needs to be addressed. And a consultation with the fire district council about this. And with your permission, could we leave it as is? In other words, not asking the commissioners to take action on it tonight, but to see what we can come back with to your meeting a week from tonight. To see if these very significant concerns, which I understand and respect, can be addressed.
Sounds like a later.
John, your thoughts?
I have two things came to mind during the discussion, and one is kind of just procedurally. On one hand, our bylaws does allow the Prudential Committee to create ad hoc committees. I think the words are, either as needed or from time to time or something kind of generally vague like that. So I wonder if this even requires a warrant article to be voted on by the district, or if simply, the Prudential Committee could make that determination. That's kind of on one hand. On this, the other side of it, and I apologize for being direct here, but in terms of the purview of the fire district, the barrier of entry to have a warrant article is 10 certified signatures, which I think is valid, and I think at that point we can. I don't actually. I believe with those signatures and the text, we are required to put it in the annual warrant. Um, but in this particular case, again, although I do support the sentiment, I wonder. To me, it comes down to action versus inaction, and in this case, not inaction. Sorry, action required or no action required. If the end result of this is a statement, and kind of a recognition by the district, it just doesn't seem like a an efficient use of time or resources, only because at that point, it could where could it end, or where would it end? In that, would the district also take a stance on other, whether historical events or current events, or something generally flippant? And I apologize for this, would be like, the fire district does not support putting ketchup on hot dogs. I mean, there is a certain line and a certain place where I think these types of statements could be a great use of the district's time, resources, and publicizing, circulating, promoting, to this point. I just think in general, if there's no action beyond the statement being made, my preference would be to, or I guess my opinion would be to not have this be part of the official fire district business.
May I respond to Commissioner Havel's comments?
Yes.
So thank you for your thoughtfulness, and those of us who've signed the petition feel that what is unique about the statement, which of course hasn't been crafted, so we have no idea what the voters of the fire district would do with whatever the thing is that might be crafted. But the
Sure.
purpose of the acknowledgement has directly to do with the fire district concerns for fire and water. In other words, it has to do with our care and protection of our land. That's the overlap. And yeah, it's the land. And I feel that that's a very powerful shared interest that we all have here, and acknowledging that our predecessors who first settled here weren't the first people to care about this land feels to me completely consistent with our long-term historical interest in our place.
Thank you. One quick follow-up, and Ms. Lloyd, are you seeing this statement as more so kind of like a North Star for all commissioners and anyone in the district to reference when thinking about anything as it relates to our land, or is it independent of our business? I always wonder if it's like a mission statement of sorts.
Well, as we were considering that, we held back from making it to asking any commissioners or any entities of the official district of the fire district to do anything with the statement, because we were clear. I was clear. We were all clear that that was beyond what the purpose of this was. What I could imagine, and again, this is completely hypothetical because the statement hasn't been written and the committee would make these recommendations and the voters would decide. But I could imagine printing it on the inside of our annual reports every year. For example, I could see it being on our website on the fire district website and perhaps on the different committees' websites. People, different commissioners, as they convene their meetings, they could decide independently whether or not they want to read this. That's not a decision that I would suggest putting into an article for the fire district. But that would be the action, Commissioner Havel, that I would imagine. I would hope, again, with the qualifications I just recited, that it might be printed on the inside of our annual reports and perhaps read at the commencement of an annual district meeting in the future.
So
Thank you.
based on the comments that I made, and the comments that Commissioner Havel made, I think that this is a cause that is not suitable for this institution to be grappling with. I would vote that we not include it as an article and would accept a motion as such.
Excuse me, Commissioner Lynch, I think Commissioner Havel made an important point, and that is that if we've met the threshold of signatures in order to get an article on the annual district meeting, I'm not sure it's up to the Prudential Committee to decide which articles actually go to the meeting or not. The questions that have been raised about enabling legislation outside the boundaries of the bylaws, legal precedents, all those are important. They absolutely need to be addressed. We have time between now and the annual district meeting to address them. Motions can be accepted from the floor of the annual district meeting to address any of those concerns if they are addressable when the time comes. But with all due respect, I don't believe this can be kept off the warrant.
Well, we still haven't resolved, at the very least, we haven't resolved the procedural issues. Even if you get those names to Ryan, he has to check the names, but also they will be signatories to a petition that includes the language that the moderator runs this ad hoc committee, which runs afoul of the bylaws that specifically set forth the moderator's duties. So it would be a nullity.
Well, I have been studying town meeting time, which is the guidance that we also use to run our annual district meetings in preparation for serving as moderator. And it's clear from that guidance that the purpose of the article is to notify residents and voters of the topic that will be discussed. There is plenty of time and space and room within the actual meeting itself to refine, correct, update, and amend any article that, for any reason, it does not come before the ADM in its proper form. And also for clarification, the signatures need to be delivered, and I will be there at 8:30 tomorrow morning, to the town clerk. And the town clerk's office is the one that verifies the signatures, comparing them to the registered voters. And once they have done that, I will pick them up and hand deliver them to Ryan. But he does not need to do that certification himself. That's done by the town of Barnstable clerk's office.
Mark, you're muted at the moment.
Thank you, John. I'm sorry. That's not what our bylaws say. It specifically refers to the district clerk and implies that they must be, well, you only submit them to the district clerk. So it's more than an implication. The district clerk must determine whether or not they are valid signatures.
The town clerk does check off if they're valid within our district, and then I review that to make sure that I compare that to what the town clerk has done.
But Ryan, that's the language not related to the 10 signatures for to add an article to the warrant. That language just says you need to give the names to the district clerk, which is you. That's Article 2, Section 4.
Yeah, but from what I get post that, I want to say there's the step where you have to drop it off to the town's clerk for signatures and stamp of approval for them, and they check it to our voter registry. And then it's up to that person to bring it to the district clerk, post that, and then I just verify that all the items from the town clerk have been done correctly.
Where are you reading from?
That is from what I've gathered from the town clerk herself.
Okay,
And
that is absolutely true for
nominations.
people
Nominations.
nominations. Thank you. But the language relating to the articles specifically says it goes to the district clerk with no reference to anybody else. Now, this has not happened recently, certainly, but the bylaws are quite clear on this.
But Commissioner Lynch, I mean, the takeaway of that is that should any warrant article wish to be added by petition, it's submitting 10 signatures from registered voters residing within the district to Ryan, the district clerk, before the warrant is closed. Correct?
Presumably, yes.
Was that done with with the one with the Historical Society?
No. So I've been thinking about that today. We did not insist upon that, although that was our original position. We eventually were persuaded by the fact that there was a recently enacted Massachusetts state law that provided that the Historical Society could be funded by vote of the district, which we concluded was sufficient to add to the as an article. I had
The
my doubts
Prudential
about
Committee decided that.
the Prudential Committee decided that. Yes,
Okay.
that is how we interpreted the bylaws in that very much one-off, or I should, yeah, one-off position.
Well, I have a proposal, and that is that, the folks who join me in hoping this gets onto our warrant, that we do both. We check with the town of Barnstable clerk to see what they say. We check our bylaws. I will speak to our district council, Mr. Boudreau, and we will get the signatures to Ryan before the deadline, in time for him to check the voter rolls before the deadline. I don't know how he checks the voter rolls when he doesn't have them yet, though.
I'm not sure about that either. This is the first time this has happened.
I'm not sure that's
I will,
true, Mr.
I will talk to Mark about whether this falls within our enabling legislation. That would be / bylaws. That would be, I think, trump all other considerations. It certainly is a case of first impression, well out of our wheelhouse. And I just, I think it is a certainly something that anyone can do if they would like. Why the fire district can or should be involved in this, given the scope of our duties, I don't know.
Are you asking for my opinion on that question?
No, I know your opinion on that. John, final thoughts?
But final thoughts is I think Ms. Lloyd's plan of action makes sense. I mean, if if come next Monday, before we close the the warrant for the annual district meeting, there are 10 signatures from district registered district voters. I think the bylaws clearly state that it may be added to this year's warrant, but obviously the Prudential Committee can continue to vote whether or not to recommend or not recommend. But at the same time, yeah, all of this. So, Mark, sorry, Mr. Lynch, you bring up a good point about the scope and the enabling legislation and checking with council, which would potentially supersede kind of all other conversations of this. And in terms of voter participation and consideration, I think the bylaws are very clear, and I don't want to dissuade action by any resident to make proposals in that way.
Due respect, if Council Boudreau says that this is out of our enabling legislation, that does not mean the article cannot go on the warrant. It means it cannot be passed as written. And that's an important
I'm not sure I
distinction.
see the difference.
Yeah. There's no
Because the work that we do at annual district meeting is to hear it receive motions, and motions can be made to correct the language that could bring this article within the scope of, hypothetically, I don't know, we have to figure out how to do this.
How is that consistent with all articles must be in the warrant by the 27th, if all you need is a hint at a topic and off you go to the annual district meeting?
Excuse me, it's not just a hint. It has to be very clear to the voters what the nature of the issue is and how it would affect their lives. That's why our treasurer, Mr. Perone, is so specific about the dollar amounts. He has to be, because it affects it affects us as individuals. The article has to be very clear so that a voter can decide. The town meeting time handbook is very crystal clear on this. It has to convey to the voters of the district what we will be talking about and deciding on, so that they can decide to come. It does not need to have the specific language that we actually pass. It's a proposal.
Well, I think we ought to get Mark Boudreau involved.
Yeah.
I will give him a call. Lally, if you want to be on that call, let me know.
I would, please. Yes, please.
We will set that up. In the meantime, I would get those signatures to Ryan. I will take a look at the bylaws, but they seem very clear to me. It's to go to the district clerk. There are other processes that require it to go to the town clerk, but we should get Mr. Boudreau's view on that as well.
Thank you.
All right. Lally, are you aware of any other potential articles out there on any topic whatsoever?
No, I am not aware of any articles that are potentially out there on any topic whatsoever.
Thank you. That's clear. I appreciate it. So let's get this one resolved, and hopefully we'll be done. That was the last article on the list, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to the next article then. Audiovisual / web page. Thank you, Ms. Daly, for forwarding that information. I want to address the second issue first, which is the web page. I know John's been working diligently on this. Have we gotten to the point where we should enlist some professional help, John? I mean, I don't want to be flip, but I do want to get this done and my guess is that the way you're doing it satisfies the data requirement. I don't know if you looked at the particular code section that requires that, but my guess is that that's pretty standard stuff. And I leave it to you. If you think you can and want to get this done, great. If not, I'm happy to. I do not think it would be a significant amount of money to get someone to redo the web page. What say you? I'm open to any view.
Yes, thank you. And one correction from your previous statement is the word diligently, and I want to fully acknowledge and accept the lack of diligence that I've put forward to it. I can make excuses, but it comes down to life happening and work and other responsibilities. So I have not been able to devote as much time as I wanted to in order to get it across the finish line. I do need, I have been traveling and I need to spend a little bit more time reviewing Miss Daly's information that she sent over. That said, I do not believe it would be drastic changes to what we're doing. Um, I don't want to over promise or and under deliver, but again, I'd say like it's about 98% there. I almost swapped it over last month, but there was an outstanding RFM or sorry, request for proposal RFP was ongoing, and I did not want to disrupt that in any way in terms of changing URLs. And I do not have. I will just say this. If the district would vote to, or if we decide to move forward professional help, I do not think that would be a bad thing. I also want to say that I do think I will and have it finished very soon, very shortly. But at the same time,
Tell you what, John,
I understand it's been ongoing.
I appreciate your candor. I really do. Why don't we do this? Why don't we put it on the agenda for next week? Take a further look at Patty's email. If that raises some doubts in your mind as to whether you're using the appropriate code, so to speak, to make it ADA compliant, that might be something that makes you say, yeah, maybe we need to. But failing that, maybe not. So why don't we just put it on the agenda for next week?
That sounds like a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. The other issue relates to audiovisual in Freedom Hall. We've talked about this several times and we've never voted for it. I was going to say we never came to a conclusion, but that's not true. We never voted in favor of it. We got one quote, which I will describe as aggressive, that very aggressive from a price perspective. We have had, to be perfectly candid, some problems with the audio portion presentations in Freedom Hall, particularly one where Icon Architecture, our architect for the demolition project, we had them use their Zoom page, and that was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. There was a problem with the density, so to speak, of the presentation. We have responded to that by Ryan arranged for the Freedom Hall website to go from Ryan will connect me, but I believe it was 1 bit per second to 8 bits per second. John, you're shaking your head. I got that wrong.
800, but yeah, same ratio.
Okay, 100 to 800
megabits.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we are taking this seriously. I know Patty's email mentioned, at the 4/13/26 meeting, which was 2.5 hours long, 3 times I couldn't hear somebody say something, so presumably said, "I beg your pardon," which to me doesn't sound like evidence of a problem, but maybe evidence of a lack of a problem. Um, the only problem, and the audio, we continue to get good quality minutes that we review and approve every meeting, which suggests to me that the audio is good. Very rarely do we have a inaudible comment. The one issue that we seem to have is with the owl. If you're facing the owl, it's very good. What happens is people put something on the screen behind us, and we turn around to look at it and talk in that direction, and the owl won't pick that up. I'm asking Ryan to see if he can figure out a fix for that, whether it's either two owls, one in front of us, one in behind us, but might be some feedback issues, or just some kind of iPad in front of us so that we can be facing the owl while we review documents. I don't think that we need kind of a very expensive fix. I am serious about making sure that people can hear consistently, and I think with very rare exceptions that's true. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have, fairly extensive thoughts on that on this, but I'll keep it as short as I can. I think, I mean, I've had issues sitting with my back to the screen while, and then, as you mentioned, turning around and talking to the screen in order to see the people or see what's presented. So I think whether it's a TV kind of in front that also mirrors it, so none of us have to turn around, or just simple reorientation of seating that could address it. The owl itself is, I would say, suitable in terms of capturing audio and capturing video, assuming people are sitting close to it, specifically in a circle and facing towards it. I think it works fairly well for what it is. What I keep coming back to is, we look at the town of Barnstable and other municipalities, and they have great multiple cameras, very either individual microphones or kind of omniscient. I'm not even sure what it is. Pick up microphones that can just kind of capture audio or sound within the room. But the one thing that we do not have on that is first a contained space. Freedom Hall is not well suited for that type of environment. So any solution is kind of I haven't I haven't been able to wrap my mind around like what a elegant solution would be there. And then secondly, a dedicated IT person. Part of the proposal, I believe, was similar to Hamilton Hall, where there's a somewhat sophisticated AV panel and equipment, potentially multiple cameras, multiple microphones. But in order to set that up and run it effectively, it would require ongoing support, which the district does not have. So I'll be honest, I agree that we should be committed and to a good audio and good video to encourage participation. But with Freedom Hall specifically, um, I haven't been able I don't see a clear solution at the moment. And that's my hesitance towards making that a sizable investment.
Let me suggest this then. And Ryan, please put this off until after the annual district meeting because I know you're absolutely buried now. But I like the idea of having, and I believe we already have some kind of TV screen on a rolling device that can be positioned such that we can see the audience can see us, and we can still see the documents, even ones with fairly small type, without turning around, and see if that addresses that issue. We can go forward and see where we go from there. But Ryan, put that on your to-do list for I don't know, June 10th, maybe. All right. The next agenda item, John, you were referring to Hamilton Hall, which at the CFD, which I'm sorry, CFC, which has a great system. I would like to use them again. They are amenable. Importantly, from Ryan's perspective, because he is responsible for getting the recording of the meeting and arranging for someone to do that. They have a person who's quite good on staff, who's willing to do it very inexpensively. I suggest we go ahead and I know that Ryan very much would like to check things off his list. One of them is sending out announcements as to where the annual meeting is going to be. I would propose that we have it at Hamilton Hall. If we have too much room, that's a happy problem. I do note that there are some kind of significant issues at this meeting that are likely to draw a crowd. And I would suggest that we schedule this, confirm this with Hamilton Hall. Thoughts, John?
I think in terms of the storyline of the district, my preference would be Freedom Hall, as that's the intended purpose of it historically. But based on what we just talked about with the AV system and potential issues and kind of other thing, I'd prefer to address that first before we commit to doing the annual district meeting there. So in that sense, if Hamilton Hall is available, I support that decision.
Right. I will let them know. And Ryan, you can put that in your notifications going forward.
Thank you.
The last thing on the agenda, I suggest that we defer to our next meeting because, like you, John, I can confess to not being completely diligent. I'm supposed to be doing the Prudential Committee portion of the annual report and have not yet done so. So when we give ourselves another week, or give me another week, and we can hopefully have that in shape. Ryan has sent around the current state, but we're waiting for the fire department. I will remind Chief Brown, and we're waiting for me. So let us punt that. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I think that is the last agenda item, but for public comment, thank you for sticking around. It's been another lengthy meeting, but I think worthwhile, and we accomplished a lot. Any public comment? Well, hearing then, I will take none. I will take a motion for a.
Sorry, Mark, there is.
Sorry. I promise it's a different topic.
Okay.
My understanding is that the bylaws need to be approved by the Attorney General. Any changes in bylaws need to be approved by Attorney General. That's my understanding. I don't know whether the change that was approved at last year's annual district meeting has yet been approved by the Attorney General. And I mention this, Commissioner Lynch, because you and I have talked about the fact that the version of our bylaws that's up on our website right now is not up to date. And it occurs to me that the Prudential Committee might prefer to wait until after this year's annual district meeting to see whether there are further changes being approved by the voters to our bylaws before both years' recommended changes be submitted to the Attorney General.
Can you send us whatever citation you're relying upon?
I'll have to get back to you with the specific citation, but as I said, I've been reading Town Meeting Time, and that's where I got this piece of information, and it clicked that it might be relevant to us at this point. But I'll email all three of the Prudential Commissioners and Ryan when I find the citation.
In that regard, and thank you for raising this, I think we resolved, there were kind of two issues of things being brought up to speed. One of them was the 2023 annual report that was marked draft. That will, we will withdraw the designation draft because it has now been approved. And as I understand it, if the bylaws, current bylaws are not correct, and they were not, because of one citation, they should be changed without waiting to see if there are any additional changes after the annual district meeting.
But my point,
I believe Ryan has undertaken that change.
my point, I beg your pardon for interrupting. My point
Ryan,
only is that since they need to be approved by the Attorney General before they become our official bylaws, there might be a question of timing of when you post the revised ones.
okay, well, Lally, please find whatever citation you're referring to, because
I will.
I'll stand it and say that is news to me.
I will do that. I'll get right back to you tomorrow.
Okay. In the meantime, Ryan, I understand you have changed, or incorporated the change in the bylaws that are posted on the Katuitt
Yeah.
Federated Katuitt Fire District website, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Would you like to remove those for now, or, well,
No, leave them the way they are. If we need to get approval from the Attorney General, we have some work to do. All right, any other public comment? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in adjournment. Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.